Hi everyone, it's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique, and today I'm going to show you guys an alternative way to start your tubular herringbone. I already have a really decent, good video on YouTube that shows you how to start tubular herringbone using the ladder stitch start, and it also goes into, just one method of twisted tubular herringbone. And I showed you guys recently the traditional start to flat herringbone, so I thought today I would show you this start. Depending on how big that you want your tube to be, you know the herringbone is worked between 2 beads on each stitch. So here I have 4 beads onto my thread. And what I'm going to do, this is going to make a round type of a ring. So what we're going to do is just pass through all the beads again. And I'm just using some 8/0s, the same practice ones I used recently on the traditional start. And then you come around, bring your beads around, and then you're going to pass through that first bead again to form the loop. And you're going to bring your beads into shape like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 2 beads and we're going to sew through the next bead. And you see that sits the 2 little beads into the traditional looking inverted V, which you always see in the herringbone stitch. And then we're just going to repeat that all the way around. I'm going to continue to pick up 2 beads, and I'm just using a different color as I work this round so you can see better how the little our little base for each new herringbone stitch is created. I'm going to do this all the way around, and that's going to give me 8 columns, 4 stitches. Oops, I got an extra bead on this one. Sorry, folks. Take one off. There we go. So I picked up my 2, and I'm just going into the next bead, just like this on the base. And then we have one more to do, and I'll show you how you step up at the end. Let me get my tail thread out of my way. So here I am putting on the last 2 beads. I'm going into that 4th bronze bead on my base circle. Pull those beads in. Position them so that they look the same all the way around. And we're going to step up into that very first bead we picked up in this round. Just like that. And pull everything and get a good tension on your tail thread there. And this is what you have. So now we can just start doing herringbone. So we'll just pick up 2, pass down the next bead. Let me flip it around here, got sideways. So I'm exiting this bead, I've picked up 2, I'm coming down into the next bead. And now we're going to pick this up and bring it into a tube by stepping up into the next topaz bead. And you can see as you pull on that, we'll start bringing this beadwork upward into the tubular shape. So let's work ourselves all the way around. We pick up 2, pass down 1. If you need help with this stitch, you can refer to the tubular herringbone post I just posted recently, and then back to the previous video I was talking about. And I'll throw links to those up on the information eye at the top here. We're going to step up into that next column. Now that looks perfect, right? So then we're going to pick up 2, pass down the next one. And then we're going to step up into this one right here, the next one. We will pick up the last 2, pass down the next topaz bead on the next column. And don't let your beads twist. Once you have your beads positioned, this time, because we're at the end of this row, we're going to step up through. We're exiting this bead. We need to step up through the corresponding bead on the next column, plus the new bead that we added in this round. And this time, when we step up and pull, don't let your thread catch your previous column over here. And I still got it caught. Hold on just a second. This is a good example where you can see how that thread has looped around that previous column over there. So we're going to pull it up. And this time we have a little bit more of a way to start forming our beads upward. And the more you work, the more they will pull and pull towards the tubular shape. So I'm going to do a few more rounds just to see how this thing shapes up. I think I'll switch over to some bronze beads this time. So I'm exiting this left column. I picked up 2. I'm going to sew down the right column. Ain't too crazy about this start. Step up into the 3rd column. I'm going to really have to start pulling this if I'm going to get a tubular shape. Right now it's kind of looking like a circular. So let's move on. Pick up 2, pass down the next column. Step up into the next one. It's pretty awkward using these 8/0s. I don't know, maybe 11/0s might have been a better choice here. But since we were just working through the bead and button, the 2019 bead and button bead stitching handbook, I thought we'd give it a try. And then we'll step up again. And it is slowly taking the tubular shape. Let's put the last beads on, pass down the next column, and then this time we will step up 2. So I'm going to flip it around here. I'm going to step up through the topaz bead I started the round from, plus the bronze bead I added this go round, and pull it up. That's a pretty big tube, and it's pretty loose right now. So let's talk about that for a minute. So like when I start with the, and it could also have something to do with this tail thread because we didn't tie a knot. So you'd have to put some, keep your tension really nice down here on your tail thread. You could potentially add a stop bead to that if you needed to hold the tension on the bottom row down here. So basically, here's what we're looking at. It looks a little bit big and wonky, of course, because I used 4 beads here, and it's making, an 8-stitch round, or actually a 4-stitch round as you go around, but we have actually 8 individual columns, 2 per stitch. So it's big and bulky, but it is working. And then it just gives us this tiny set of beads here on the base. Where normally, I've always started this with at least a 2-bead highlight or sometimes a single bead. But it also changes the appearance and the orientation of these beads on the bottom. As you can see, our herringbone beads are oriented this way. The bead hole faces up and down. On the bottom row, our bead holes are going around left to right. So it does change the appearance of the end of your beadwork. The second alternative way to start, actually there's 3 different ways. I've figured out another one. So here I'm going to use 6 seed beads. I have alternated the colors bronze, topaz, bronze, topaz, bronze, topaz. So this is a different way you can do it. So I'm put those down to the tail thread, and I'm going to pass through all the beads again, once, to form our loop. Since we're working in the tubular, I'm going to pull this around. And I'm going to pass through that first bead again to close my circle. Get us a nice basic shape to start with. So now we have our 6 beads formed into a little loop. So let's go ahead and start. In this particular instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be picking up the color I come out of and then the color I'm going into. We talked about this several times over the last few weeks. So we're exiting the bronze bead. We're going to come through the topaz bead and the next bronze bead. So we're going to be taking our stitch and doing our step up at the same time. And I actually like the way this one worked out a little bit better. So now I'm going to pick up the bronze and then the topaz. Coming out of the bronze, I'm going to go into the topaz plus the next bronze. And this actually pulls all of the beads up into the herringbone, and you don't have that little weird circle at the bottom, like I showed you a few minutes ago. I'm going to take this last stitch. I'm exiting this bronze bead. I'm going to go through this topaz bead, the next bronze bead, and step up into the first new bead I added in this round. So I'm actually going to be passing through all 3 of these beads like that. And then I'm going to pull, and then I'm going to shape up everything. So let me get my beads shaped up into position. And so now you can see that my 3 columns of herringbone look a lot more like you expect with herringbone. And as we work this next round, you're going to see that it actually pulls up into the tubular shape a little bit easier than that last start. So let's do another round. Color I'm coming out of plus the color I'm going into. This time as I take my stitch down this bead, I'm also going to step up into the top bronze bead of the next column, just like that. And this will really pull it around into that tubular shape. So as you pull up to hide your working thread there in between the columns, you can see it starts to pull up really nice. So now I'm going to take my next stitch. Same thing, I'm exiting this bronze. I'm going to pass through the topaz on the next column. And I'm going to step up all the way over to the top bead of the very next column. And this is where it's going to be helpful to pull on your tail thread a little bit to keep the tension at the bottom looking correct. So here's what we have so far. And it's a little bit fidgety, but it's kind of pretty. So let's go ahead with the last stitch. Color I'm exiting plus the color I'm entering. I'm coming out of that bronze bead there at the top. I go down the topaz bead, but since I'm at the end of my row, I come up the top 2 beads on the first column. I'm skipping that one down below, but I'm coming through just those top 2. And then I'm going to pull it all around, and I'm going to pull on both threads a little bit to fix my tension. And now you really can see how it's forming the tubular shape. And on the bottom, your beads are all in the herringbone column. You don't have any of those weird oriented beads like we did in the first alternative technique. And everything looks great. So then you would just continue on, adding your beads, stepping up into the top bead. Let's do one more and I'll show you that step up again. So we're going to pick up our 2 beads. We're going to pass down the next column. We're going to step up into the top bead of the 3rd column. Once you get your tubular shape going, it's a little bit easier to manage. So I'm going to pick up my 2 beads. I'm exiting the top of the 3rd column, so I pass down the top bead of the 4th, and I step up through the top bead of the 5th. You notice my needle orientation there. Pull it into position, keeping a nice tension on my tail thread. Pick up my last 2 beads. I'm exiting the top of column 5. I'm going to go down the top bead of column 6, but I have to come up through the top 2 beads of column 1. So there's my needle orientation there. And as I pull, now you really have a good look at it. And I like this approach much better than the first one I showed you, which came out of the book. While I was working that one, I actually just happened to think, well, what would happen if you put the beads on? And then instead of adding beads in between, if you put all your base beads on you needed for each column. And I like the way that looks. It comes out looking really nice. And then you don't have, that little band of ladder stitch beads down here. Sometimes that's nice for a bracelet end, but sometimes you might just want it all straight herringbone. All right. All right, guys, if you have been following along with Bead Weaving 101 on my YouTube channel, you might want to go over to the AlluringBeadBoutique.com and check out all the blog posts that correspond to all the videos here. There are some that don't have videos, so you might pick something up that you haven't seen before. And check out all the new projects and things that have been going on over at the AlluringBeadBoutique.com. I do want to show you guys something that we're going to be working on a little bit later. So I showed you guys how to make these little triangles here in a recent video. And I made 3 of them, all the same size and everything. Then I made, I used tubular herringbone to make this rope. And I have a blog post coming pretty soon that shows you how to create this little bail at the top of each triangle, and then how to sew those into a beaded, the herringbone rope. And that'll be coming out later. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to have time to write it all up, but I really like the way it came out. And then also I did the matching earrings for it, like this. And then just put a little embellishment here. I do have some additional embellishments on this one too, as you can see, using the same beads that I did in the rope and in the triangles. Alright, so that's it. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe and hit like, and I'll see you in the next video.